You have what?
We would like you to share about your experience with Srila Prabhupada, because today we have not so much shlokas, which we realize. After the class, when we finish, they are leaving you to speak about the story. Very good.
We want to hear from you about your Prabhupada, because you are so blessed to have direct association with him.
Well, it doesn't have to be today. Nama Om Krishna Padaya Krishna Prithaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prithaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvikeshya Shunyavadi Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Where'd you get that from?
Mataji.
Huh?
Mahaprabhu.
So welcome everyone to our ongoing study, Bhakti Vaibhava. We're on third canto, chapter 8 today. Oh, my, not on. Okay. So chapter 8 of the third canto, Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. And this is the last chapter in this unit. And then next week we'll go on to 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? So we heard in the previous chapter, what did we hear? Who remembers? What happened chapter 7? Chapter 7, Inquiries by Vidura. Right, we had Vidura's questions. Vidura had a few questions in the beginning. Do you remember the questions he asked in the beginning of the chapter? What was he had 3 questions. Do you remember? Yes?
How the creation changes the Supreme Personality of Godhead? You know, is he affected by the creation? That was one of the questions.
Is he affected by the 3 modes of nature? Right. Yes, that's one. And then another one was?
If Krishna residing our heart, then how the jiva engage in the science?
Right, yeah. The Lord's in our heart, but why are we suffering? Why are we in so much misery? Yes, good. And
there was many questions Maitreya asked at the end of the chapter. He kept asking new questions.
yeah, those are later. They come later. So he wanted Vidura to ask those questions, and Maitreya was very happy to answer those questions. And so Vidura comes up with more questions. He brings his topic back to the creation of Brahma. That initially, when they had first met, Vidura had asked about the Purusha avatars and about the creation. So they've gone a little bit off track, they've gone into other things. But coming back again, we're going to hear now Chapter 8, Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. So, the great sage Maitreya said to Vidura, The royal dynasty of King Puru is worthy to serve the pure devotees because all the descendants of that family are devoted to the personality of Godhead. You are also born in that family. It is wonderful that because of your attempt, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are becoming newer and newer at every moment. So the dynasty of King Puru, they were devotees, and Vidura is born in that family, born in that line. So that's the advantage. It's a great advantage to be born in a family of devotees. It's a great help to becoming Krishna conscious. And from the beginning of your life you can be brought up in Krishna consciousness. So Vidura had that good fortune. Similarly also, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and also our own Bhakti Vedanta Swami, the two Prabhupads, they were also fortunate souls. They were born in a family of great devotees. So birth in a good family, it's, of course it's not by chance, but it's a result of their past life, that in the previous life they must have been quite advanced, elevated souls. Therefore they're born in devotee families. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that if you practice yoga for quite a long time, but still not yet perfect, then take birth in a family of devotees. And then from the beginning of your life, you have the opportunity to take up Krishna consciousness. So Vidura had asked a lot of questions to Maitreya, and Maitreya said, "Yeah, no, I will speak Bhagavad Purana, and this will answer all your questions. Everything is there in the Bhagavad Purana." I remember His Holiness Sahodra Swami Maharaj. Did you ever know him? Sahodra Swami? Did you ever know him? He was his samadhi is at the Gurukula, at the traditional Gurukula. He left the body. He left the body here in Mayapur. But he was a very scholarly, very elevated devotee. And he was talking one time about how the Muslims came to Egypt, and they came to Egypt, and he said the Egyptians, they had all their Egyptian scrolls and the different literature which they had in the Egyptian culture, and the Muslims came there. This Muslim military commander came there, and he saw that they had this huge library full of books, all the treasure of the Egyptian knowledge and everything. And he saw it all, and he said, everything we need to know is in the Quran. So everything else is useless. So you can burn all of this. And they set fire and they just burned the whole thing. So he said, we have a similar view about Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti Vinod Thakur said, everything is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if there's nothing else, if there's no other books, if you have Srimad Bhagavatam, you will know everything you need to know. There's nothing else worthy of knowing if it's not in Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, even higher than Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a more recent publication. Anyway, Maitreya is going to speak the Bhagavad Purana, and we're told the history, how he can speak the Bhagavad Purana. Well, first of all, we should understand Srimad Bhagavatam is perennial knowledge. It is not a recent literature. It's not some recent publication. It's not that it just got written 5,000 years ago and it's from that, but it's eternal knowledge. Like the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, I instructed this knowledge to the sun god Vivaswan, like that. So Bhagavad Gita wasn't just spoken 5,000 years ago. Most recently it was spoken 5,000 years ago, but it's eternal knowledge. And similarly also, Srimad Bhagavatam is like that. It's also eternal knowledge. And we're told how, but Maitreya is going to tell us how he heard it, right? He heard it from his spiritual master. Who was his spiritual master? Who's Maitreya? Parashara Muni, right? So, and how did Parashara Muni, how could he speak Srimad Bhagavatam? He heard it from? Huh? No. Vyasadeva was the son of Parashara, right? And so Parashara, he had the Srimad Bhagavatam from someone called Sakyayana Muni. Sakyayana Muni. And who did he hear it from? Sakyayana Muni had it from Sanat Kumar. And who did Sanat Kumar hear it from? Sanat Kumar heard it from? Huh? Sankarshan, yes, from Sankarshan. And where is Sankarshan? Where is Sankarshan residing? At the bottom of the universe, Seshanaga.
Where does it say that? I've heard that before.
It's all here. It's all here in this chapter. You go through these verses. It's described. And Prabhupada makes a point that we should understand the Srimad Bhagavatam is eternal knowledge. That it's not some recent. It's not just compiled 5,000 years ago, but it's eternal knowledge. As stated here, this verse which we have on the board here, which verse number 2, right? It says, the Bhagavad Purana was directly spoken to the great sages by the personality of Godhead for the benefit of those who are entangled in extreme miseries for the sake of very little pleasure. To get some little pleasure, when people have to suffer so much, right? You have to go through so many agonies. So, the Srimad Bhagavatam is there to enlighten them. And then he explains the history. He says, some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumar, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truths regarding Vasudeva, the Supreme, from Lord Sankarshan, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. So, Lord Sankarshan, he's the Supreme Lord. He's the expansion of Lord Vasudeva. So he knows everything. So he spoke this Srimad Bhagavatam to Sanat Kumar. And Sanat Kumar then spoke it to Sakyayana Muni. This one Muni. We're told, at that time, Lord Sankarshan was meditating upon his Supreme Lord. whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudeva. But for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus eyes and began to speak. You could just imagine this scene. Lord Sankarshan and Sanat Kumar comes. And then we're told about the sages. These sages, that they have the ability, they can travel throughout the universe, from the highest planet down to the lowest. They can travel. And how do they travel? Not Air Asia, not Air India, none of these things. They travel by the Ganga. The Ganges river flows from the highest planet down to the lowest. Of course, the Ganga, the water of the Ganga is coming from the causal ocean. Lord Vamanadev had made a hole in the covering and the Ganga water came in. And that Ganges water is flowing down through the universe. And the sages, those who are perfect in yoga, they can take advantage of that to travel to different planets in the universe. Isn't it amazing?
It is.
They can travel, and it's well, their hair was all wet. Naturally, you go in the Ganga, you know, you get your hair wet. Sages, they're sages, they didn't shave their head, you know. They don't have to renounce. They're sages. They have long hair, beards. Like most young men today, they like to have beards.
But these sages are the four Kumaras, no?
Not only the four Kumars, others also. And we're told they touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the serpent king when they desire good husbands. Oh, so any of you ladies, if you don't have a good husband, you can follow the example of the serpent king. And Prabhupada describes about the power of the Ganges water, right? When we take water on the Ganges, we touch the head, right? The water has to touch the head. You don't just bathe your feet in the Ganga. That's offense. If you go to Ganga and just put your feet in the water, or if you sit on the side of the boat and put your feet in the Ganga, it's offensive. You cannot do that. We take the water on our head, and before bathing, before entering into the Ganga, we first of all offer obeisances and we take some water and put it on the head. Why? Why do we put it on the head? Prabhupada explains, whoever touches the water of the Ganga to the head surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord directly and can become free from all effects of sinful acts. We better go quick to the Ganga, right? Take the water, put it on our head. Directly you're touching the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And we get free from all sinful acts. So this is the power of Mother Ganga. Our Ganga temple is moved a little bit further down the road. It used to be directly across at Prabhupada Ghat, but because of the work which is going on there, doing some construction, the temple is moved down the road a bit. Walk towards the Ghat, walk towards Kula Ghat. On the way, you'll see Prabhupada Snan. Prabhupada Snan. Bath, bathing. And the temple of Ganga is there. The devotees go there. Okay, so then the four Kumaras headed by Sanat Kumar, who all know the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, glorified the Lord in rhythmic accents with selected words full of affection and love. At that time, Lord Sankarshan, with his thousands of raised hoods, began to radiate an effulgence from the glowing stones on his head.
This Sankarshan is the Anantashesh Sankarshan.
Yes. So Prabhupada comments about this, how the four Kumaras, that they have that mood, they want to worship the Lord. They're absorbed in love and affection for the Lord. And Prabhupada said, without the development of fine affection and love, one cannot offer prayers to the Lord very suitably. So Dhruva Maharaj was a child, but the Lord touched him on the head and he could speak wonderful prayers. And similarly, Prahlad Maharaj also was blessed with divine knowledge by Lord Nrsingadev, and he could offer prayers. So we have to have that right mood to be able to offer any words of glorification to the Lord. It's not a cheap thing. We have to be very loving and caring and want to really please the Lord. So Lord Sankarshan spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumar, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumar, in his turn, when inquired of by Satyayana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Sankarshan. So Sanat Kumar, the well-known great saintly Kumar, was in the perfect stage of life. Still, he heard the message of Srimad Bhagavatam from Lord Sankarshan. Similarly, when he was questioned by Satyayana Rishi, he spoke to him the same message he had heard from Lord Sankarshan. So Prabhupada points out, you have to hear from the right authority in order to present spiritual knowledge. So Sanat Kumar had that opportunity, hearing from Lord Sankarshan, and then he was approached by a person who genuinely desired to hear that knowledge, and he spoke what he had heard. We don't just present the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam to anyone and everyone. We encourage people, first of all, hear the Bhagavad Gita. Get the basics right. If people have not understood the difference between the body and the soul, if they're still in the bodily concept of life, then it will be very difficult for them to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the Vedas. It's the cream of the Vedas. So we have to be very qualified, and if we have not properly got the basics right, then it will be very difficult for us to appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam. Alright, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's meant for those who are not envious. Dhamma projita kaitavo traparamo nirmasaranam satam. Right? Non-envious. They're not envious of others. That's an important qualification in understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. So that great sage Sakyayana was a chief among the transcendentalists. And when he was describing the glories of the Lord in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam, it so happened that my spiritual master Parashara and Brihaspati both heard him. So this is how the link comes. That Sakyayana was describing the Lord's glory. He had heard it from Sanat Kumar, and he was repeating and appreciating it, and it was heard by Parashara Muni and Brihaspati. They both heard him. So Parashara, as aforementioned, being so advised by the great sage Pulastya, spoke to me, the foremost of the Puranas, Bhagavatam. And we'll hear an interesting event which took place, how it was that Parashara Muni became blessed to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the purport, a nice pastime is described. First of all, he got the blessings from this person, Pulastya. This Pulastya, is mentioned here, being so advised by the great sage Pulastya, spoke to me being Maitreya. So Parashara spoke to Maitreya because he was advised by Pulastya. Pulastya is the father of the demons, different demoniac races. They came from Pulastya. Demons like Yakshas and Rakshasas and Gandharvas and some other, they're mentioned, the different demonic species. So Pulastya was the father of these different demonic species. And so it happened that once upon a time, we can read it here, once upon a time Parashara began a sacrifice in which all the demons were to be burned to death because his father had been killed and devoured by one of them. Just like Jamadagni, there was the son of Maharaj Parikshit. The son's name was Jamanjaya. Jamanjaya, he wanted to do a yagya to kill all the snakes because the snake had bitten, the snake bird had come and killed Maharaj Parikshit, his father. So Jamanjaya thought he would do a yagya to kill all the snakes. But he got approached by the great sages. He told them, no, the snakes are also part of the Lord's creation. You cannot change it. You shouldn't do anything to interfere with the Lord's creation. And so similarly here also, Parashara wanted to kill the demons because some demon had killed his father. So it happened, the great sage Vasishta arrived at the sacrifice and requested Parashara to stop the deadly action. And because of Vasishta's position and because of the respect which was held to him in the community of sages, Parashara could not deny the request. Parashara, having stopped the sacrifice, Pulastya, the father of the demons, appreciated his Brahminical temperament and gave the blessing that in the future he would be a great speaker on the Vedic literature. Right? Called the Puranas, the supplement of the Vedas. So this is how Parashara Muni became empowered to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Maitreya, he heard from Parashara Muni. So Parashara Muni's action was appreciated by Pulastya because Parashara had forgiven the demons out of his Brahminical power of forgiveness. Parashara was able to demolish all the demons, but he considered demons are so made that they devour living creatures, men and animals. But why on that account should I withdraw my Brahminical qualification of forgiveness? It's a nice little pastime narrated to us, helping us to understand the importance of forgiveness. As devotees, we have to cultivate that quality of forgiveness. We don't want to be bitter to people. I will get revenge on that person. They did this to me, I'll get back at them. I'm not going to let them get away with it. And, people often talk like that, behave like that. We need to cultivate the Brahminical quality. Well, of course, we're not Brahmins, we want to be more than Brahmins. So we should have the qualities of the Brahmin. And forgiveness is an important quality. There's another story about the scorpion. The scorpion somehow was in the river. It was drowning, and this man saw the scorpion there, and there were two devotees, and the one devotee saw the scorpion in the water, and he picked it up out the water. He thought, let me save it. But when he picked it up, the scorpion bit him, and it fell back in the water. So he tried to pick it up again, and again it bit him, and again it fell back in the water, because when the scorpion bites, it's very painful. You ever been bitten by a scorpion? Yeah? Really?
Arizona's got a lot of scorpions.
Arizona?
Yeah.
Yeah. You been bitten?
Yeah.
Did you have to go to the doctor?
No, I know one. It'll kill a little kid. I know a little boy who died once from a scorpion sting.
Really?
But it got me on my finger, and then the whole arm was numb for about a day. It was just kind of numb.
For a day? Well, yeah, it's quite a painful thing. I know we have a farm in Hyderabad, they have a lot of scorpions there. Not very easy farming, scorpions on the land. Anyway, the man picked up the scorpion, but because it bit him, it fell back in the water. So his friend said to him, why are you always trying to save the scorpion? He said, it keeps biting you. Why do you take the trouble to try to save it? But his friend said, he doesn't give up his nature. Why should I give up my nature? Right? Scorpion's nature is to bite, but devotee's nature is to be compassionate and to save others. So like that, that's the same kind of mood. Forgiveness, Don't hold grudges against people and feel bitter. We have to be tolerant. Okay, so later on in the purport, Srila Prabhupada makes a point. Srimad Bhagavatam has been narrated from time immemorial by the disciplic succession, even before the time of Vyasadeva. It's an important point to understand. People they say, oh no, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's not even Vyasadeva. They say it was written by somebody, Bopadev, and recent creation. They don't understand the nature of transcendental literature. Prabhupada said, factually, the Puranas existed from time immemorial, before all historical calculations by the mundaners and speculative philosophers. So we have that appreciation for Vedic literature. It's important to understand these literatures are not simply mythology. You know, it's not something like Harry Potter or something. Alice in Wonderland, different, you know, mythological books which are there. Transcendental literature, the gems. So a nice description of parampara is given there, right? You got it clearly. From Sankarshan to Sanat Kumar, then from Sanat Kumar to Satyayana Muni, and then Parashara Muni and Brihaspati there. And Parashara Muni is the guru of Maitreya. So in this way, Maitreya, he is now speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, and he heard it from his guru.
So the Vyasadev's guru is Narada, so it's the same different line with the same information.
Yeah. Vyasadeva heard from Narada Muni. And Sukadeva heard from Vyasadeva. And Sutta Goswami heard from Sukadeva Goswami. Yes?
Maharaj, when Lord Krishna departed this Brahmanda, two people were there, like Uddhava was there, Maitreya Muni was there. And Lord Krishna, when he gave his final instructions, he was looking at only Uddhava, was not looking at Maitreya, because it is mentioned that Maitreya Rishi was contaminated, Bhakti was contaminated with Jnana. So if he has heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Parashara, why is his Bhakti still contaminated with Jnana?
They answered that. Another person answered that.
Well,
I asked that.
just the fact that he's there with Lord Krishna, you know, he's not in Maya. It's not like he's in Maya. It's just some great sages, they have that nature, you know, that they're more inclined to the jnana rather than the pure bhakti. But Maitreya was definitely a very, very special soul. Otherwise, how could he have been there with Lord Krishna? And how could he have had?
It is mentioned Ajnata Sukruti. It is mentioned in the Prabhupada is Ajnata Sukruti. That's how he came, Ajnata Sukruti. That's how he was able to see the Lord.
Okay.
The Prabhupada mentioned that he was not seeing, he was contaminated with Jnana, but he is now speaking Bhagavatam. How to understand?
Where is this mentioned?
I'll give you
Huh?
the departure of Lord Krishna. When Lord Krishna left this planet.
What, 11th canto, isn't it?
And this third canto.
Oh, you got it in the third canto? The departure of...
I'll ask you later.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we have to understand that, you know, he had heard the Srimad Bhagavatam and he's able to transmit it. I mean, we see Vyasadeva also, you know, he he's written so many books, but still he was stressing, you know, the material aspects rather than the bhakti. You know, Narada Muni had to come and chastise him and tell him, you haven't given enough importance to devotion. So he had to write again. He had to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam came about after that. But he wrote it down, but the Srimad Bhagavatam was already there. It's already being transmitted in the form of knowledge. There's nothing really written down. The writing down, that only came in the beginning of Kali Yuga, because with Kali Yuga people's memories are so poor. But prior to the Kali Yuga, nothing was written down. Everything was just heard by word of mouth. And you wanted to, you would go to the Guru's ashram and the Guru would speak. And they would speak. And so there was nothing written down. People's memories were so good they would hear and remember. But Kali Yuga, very poor. You see, he's struggling, trying to remember very hard. Yeah, I've also read that. I've also read that he had that impersonal tendency there. But still, he's got some special, as you say, Agyata Sukriti. I mean, that Agyata Sukriti is very special, that it could bring him in contact with Lord Krishna directly, and he could be there with Lord Krishna at the time and Lord Krishna also gave a message for Vidura to Maitreya. So he has some very special relationship.
I think I asked that question to our last teacher too, and they said that even though he heard the Bhagavatam, he's still getting purified until the point where he saw Krishna. That was when he became a pure devotee. But even in itself, the hearing of the Bhagavatam from the great sages, hearing from these great sages, by hearing from the Bhagavatam, that in itself is getting you Agyata Sukriti. So just by hearing Bhagavatam, he was getting Agyata Sukriti that allows him to see Krishna and become fully realized.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we're hearing, we're not pure devotees necessarily, but we're hearing, so then by hearing someday we'll also become pure.
Yeah, I mean we could say the same thing about the 4 Kumaras. The 4 Kumaras, they're generally, they're engaged in Astanga Yoga, they're engaged in their meditation. The 4 Kumaras, they're not actively engaged in devotional service, they're more Santarasa. Their mood is like that. They're in Tapaloka. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you can read Kumar goes there to Tapaloka and he meets with the 4 Kumaras, and the 4 Kumaras are telling Kumar, oh, you don't need to engage in activities, you just need to meditate on the Lord. The 4 Kumaras, they're just engaged in they have their meditation. They're not active in devotion, they're not doing kirtan or anything, they're just meditating, remembering the Lord. And Prahlad Maharaj also, his process is remembering. He's not actively serving. You can always relate these different, this person's like that, but they're there, they're in the Lord's pastimes, and they're fortunate souls, they're very special souls. You may say, oh, he's a jnani, or he's mixed with impersonal jnana, but he's a devotee. He's not a total impersonalist. They may be attracted to the impersonal aspect, just like the 4 Kumaras, they were attracted to the impersonal aspect of Brahman. But then when they went to the spiritual world, and when they met Lord Padmanabha, then at that time, then they understood the greatness of the Lord. But before that, they were just absorbed in the impersonal Brahman. So the absolute truth is there in different features, right? Brahman is also one aspect of the absolute truth.
The third kind of 4th chapter, 19th verse, Maharaj, Prabhupada mentioned to the Prabhupada that when the Lord explained his specific transcendental situation, it was meant for Uddhava only, and therefore Uddhava particularly said, Mahyam, onto me. Although the great sage Maitreya was also sitting there, such a transcendental situation is hardly understood by those whose devotion is mixed with speculative knowledge or fruitive activities.
Well, he's described as a great sage. right? The great sage, Maitreya. What was the rest of the sentence you said?
Yeah.
The great sage Maitreya?
The great sage Maitreya was also sitting there. Such a transcendental situation is hardly understood by those whose devotion is mixed with speculative knowledge or putative activity.
Well, that doesn't mean that he was mixed with mental... I mean, Prabhupada's making a point. He's not saying necessarily that Maitreya was mixed with mental speculation and fruitive activities. You can't apply that to Maitreya. He's a great sage. And we see him speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. Sukadeva Goswami is recounting. Sukadeva Goswami is recounting the conversations Maitreya had with Vidura. The third and the fourth canto are all Sukadeva, Maitreya and Vidura speaking. So, you know, we can't find any fault with Maitreya on this. You know, you can't think, oh, he's an impersonalist. You know, he's a great sage, and we certainly have to respect him. And he's repeating the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he's repeating it in parampara. He's not adulterating it, which is what other people, you know, if he was really a Mayavadi, they do that. The Mayavadis, they will take the scriptures and they will put their own interpretations into them. And you know, you don't want to go and hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from any of these Mayavadi people. They may speak something about, oh, this is Srimad Bhagavatam, but they give it all their own meanings. They have their own speculative meanings behind all of Krishna's pastimes. They don't take them literally, but they will explain it all in some weird way. You know, they have their own ideas about everything. So it's very dangerous to hear from people who are not devotees. But we're hearing from Maitreya. So he must be a devotee. And in fact, Vidura is a devotee, and Vidura has gone to Maitreya to hear from him. You know, there can't be any... And why did Uddhava send Vidura to Maitreya? If you know, he didn't say, oh, I'll send you to Maitreya, but watch out, you know, he's an impersonal, he's got some Brahma Gyan. You know, he didn't say like that. You know, he said, no, Maitreya is there. Maitreya also was with the Lord at the time of his departure, and you can go and hear from him. So there's no fault on the part of Maitreya.
I think the essence of the point that's being made is that Prabhupada is making the point that although Maitreya may have had some personal or jnana tendencies, the point is, ultimate point is he was just on the level of Uddhava. That was the point that was being made, I think, which is understandable.
He was
just not on the level of
yeah, definitely not on the level of Uddhava. Yes, that's right. Not on the level of Uddhava. But we have to there are so many different levels of devotees. Sometimes people don't appreciate that. And they think, oh, pure devotees, they're all on the same level. There's so many different levels of devotees. That's also mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. There's mentions about 7 different levels, and they give examples of each level. And so certainly that's an important point to understand.
Isn't it in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita? Uddhava is the highest level except for Radharani. She's the only one that's higher than Uddhava, I think. And he goes to Uddhava, Gopakumar goes to Dwarka, he talks to Uddhava, and then he goes to Radharani.
Yeah. No, but Uddhava said he would take, he wants the dust from any of the gopis, any of the people of Vrindavan. Uddhava worships all the people of Vrindavan. Uddhava is resident in Dwarka. So there are different levels among the devotees. We have to appreciate that. You know, there's great devotees. Vyasadeva is a great devotee. Prabhupada's a great devotee. Does it mean they're both on the same level? You know, there's a difference. There's certainly Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati also. You know, how to understand. There's certainly different levels of devotees. They do like to put the different acharyas as manjaris. Right? They say this acharya is that manjari and like this. So if you put everyone as manjaris, then you could say all the manjaris are on the same level. But even among the manjaris, there are leaders. Right? Rupa Manjari is the leader of the manjaris. You know, there's different. It's not all one, even though they may be manjaris in the spiritual world, but some manjaris have a more important position than others. They have different services to perform in relation to Krishna. Okay. Alright, so he's going to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, and then text number 10 describes we're going to hear about the creation after a partial annihilation. Now, partial annihilations will take place usually at the end of the Deo Brahma, with the Deo Brahma. The end of the Deo Brahma, then there will be a partial, the lower planets, meaning Swarga, Bhuvar, Bhu, these different planets, they're all annihilated. The four upper planets, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satyaloka, they remain. But the lower planets are annihilated. And there's also devastation takes place at the end of the Manu, each Manu. How many Manus in one day of Brahma?
14.
14, yes, 14. 14 Manus in one day of Brahma. And Bhagavatam describes at the end of the life of each Manu, there's also a partial annihilation, devastation. So take like that. Lord Brahma sometimes takes a rest, has a rest. When he goes to takes a rest, there will be some like the partial annihilation. So text 10 describes the three worlds were submerged in water. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedstead, the great snake Ananta, and although he appeared to be in slumber, in his own internal potency, free from the action of the external energy, his eyes were not completely closed. It's describing the situation. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he has his bed, and his bed is Ananta Shesha. So it says he appeared to be resting in his own internal potency, but his eyes were not completely closed. And then they give an example. Just like the strength of fire within fuel wood. Have you come across that? You take some logs, and sometimes the log, just from within the log, will burst into flames. Right? You could have that situation. You have some logs, they're just sitting there, I remember one time we were cutting they had to move a tree, take a tree out, and the root was remaining, and after a day or two, just burst into flames. The fire is there within the wood. So this example is given in relation to Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. It says, the Lord remained within the water of dissolution, submerging all the living entities in their subtle bodies. He lay in the self-invigorating energy called Kala. So, what's happening? At the time of the partial annihilation, where are all the living entities? Where do they go?
Body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu.
Yes, they go into the body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And do they go in what form? Huh? Subtle, right. The subtle body goes. It's the subtle body which comes. Just like at the time of death, the soul leaves the body and the subtle body also goes with the soul. Right? The subtle body is accompanying. Why the subtle body goes? To carry our desires. Right? Because when the creation will take place again, then that subtle body, that will make the arrangement for what kind of body you're going to take in the new creation. The bodies we have now are the result of our karma from the past, the desires we had and our qualifications. So we're put into these different situations. Nothing is by chance. So this example is given like fire within fuel wood. In the same way, the example is that all the living entities in their subtle bodies, they're laying in the body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And with the creation, they're going to come out and they're going to take some body again. And Prabhupada writes that this by dint of the energy called Kala. Kala meaning that time. Here he says, he lay in the self-invigorated energy called Kala. In the dissolution, the gross bodies become unmanifest, but the subtle bodies existed, just like the water of the material creation. The water of the material creation. The material energy was not completely wound up, as in the case of the full dissolution of the material world. Right, there's two kinds of annihilation. One annihilation is with the full dissolution of the material world. That will be at the end of the life of Brahma. After what Brahma's 100 years, then there will be a total annihilation. But the partial annihilation takes place usually at the end of the day of Brahma. And it may even be with the end of with the changeover from one manu to another. So the material energy was not completely wound up. Where was it? It was all in the body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Just like fire was in the wood. The energy was there within. It looked like a lump of wood, but just coming to flames. In the same way, the body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu was containing the subtle body of all the living entities. And we're going to hear how they all take birth. First of all, we're hearing about Lord Brahma. Now he's going to appear. He has not appeared yet, but he's going to come. So the Lord, which Lord? Who's that Lord? Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. He laid down for 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas in his internal potency. And by his external energy, he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development of their fruitive activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish. Who saw his transcendental body as bluish? Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. Right. He saw his transcendental body as bluish. So Prabhupada writes in the purport here about this bluish. He said, due to this polluted mentality and due to material sins, the aggregate combination of living entities appeared to be bluish. The aggregate combination of living entities appeared. Such an impetus of activity for fruitive result is made possible by the dictation of the external energy of the Lord, Kala. So why is he a bluish color?
Because they are contaminated.
Because of the living entities within him.
Yeah, the material sins and the polluted mentality. It manifests in the form, the bluish color, the bluish body. And this is due to the combination of the living entities.
Here it says that he lay for 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas. Is that not the lifetime of Brahma? And if it's the lifetime of Brahma, then how is this partial annihilation? I'm asking, on this text it says that Garbhodakshayi Vishnu was trying for 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas, which is the lifetime of Brahma, right?
The day of
The, oh, it's the, no, not lifetime.
Not a lifetime. Sahasra Yuga Padantam, 1,000 ages taken together is the duration of one day.
I understood.
Wasn't the lifetime. Anyway, it's a cycle of 1,000, 4,000, isn't it?
1,000 Chaturyugas.
1,000 Chaturyugas. Chaturyugas.
Means 1,000 cycles.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, 1,000 cycles.
4,300,000,000 years.
So it would be one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day.
Alright, so the subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was agitated by the material mode of passion Thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen. So we're hearing how Lord Brahma is going to take his birth. That the Lord was agitated by the mode of passion, and the subtle form of creation, meaning Lord Brahma, he takes his birth. Well, how does Lord Brahma come? First of all, it's not Lord Brahma. First of all, it's the lotus flower which comes. That lotus flower is going to come from the abdomen of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So this lotus flower is very significant, right? That all the different planets, the living entities, they're all there within that lotus flower. Piercing through this sum total form of the fruitive activity of the living entities, took the shape of the bud of a lotus flower, generated from the personality of Vishnu, and by its supreme will it illuminated everything like the sun and dried up the vast waters of devastation. Dried up the vast water. So the lotus flower comes out of the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and it's effulgent, it illuminates everything like the sun. And when the sun is very hot, then the water dries up, the water starts to evaporate. So it dried up the vast waters of devastation. So you could imagine how powerful was the illumination. Into that lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as the Supersoul. And when it was thus impregnated with all the modes of material nature, the personality of Vedic wisdom, whom we call the self-born, was generated. Lord Brahma enters into the lotus flower, or he takes his birth from the lotus flower. Prabhupada explains the significance of the lotus flower in the purport. He said that lotus flower is the universal Virat form, or the gigantic form of the Lord in the material world. It becomes amalgamated in the personality of Godhead Vishnu in his abdomen at the time of dissolution, and it becomes manifest at the time of creation. This is due to Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who enters into each of the universes. In this form is the sum total of all the fruitive activities of the living entities, conditioned by material nature. In this form, what is this form? In this form is the sum total of all fruitive activities.
Lotus.
The lotus, yes, the lotus flower. In this form of the lotus flower is the sum total of all fruitive activity of the living entities, conditioned by material nature. And the first of them, namely Brahma, or the controller of the universe, is generated from the lotus flower. So Lord Brahma is Swayambhu. He goes to sleep with Narayan at the time of devastation. And when there is another creation, he is born in this way. From this description we have the conception of three: the gross Virat form, the subtle Hiranyagarbha, and the material creative force, Brahma. So three three forms of Brahma actually. You have the gross Virat form, which is actually subtle, but it's more gross than Haranyagarbha. Haranyagarbha, meaning who's Haranyagarbha? Garbhadakshay Vishnu, yes. And the material creative force, Brahma. So it's a little technical.
So what does that say? Is that saying that Brahma, that there's three forms of Brahma or three forms of creation?
Yeah, he's saying there's three Brahmas there. Bharijan Prabhu quotes also Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami said there's only two Brahmas. And some difference between different acharyas, they say different things. Some say three, some say two. The gross form, the subtle form, and the force, the creative force. Impersonal. So Brahma comes out of the lotus flower. He could not see the world, although he was situated in the world. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions.
I'm sorry, just a question that when it says that he goes to sleep with Narayan, we're referring to that he goes to sleep at the end of his day, not that he's going to sleep like he's at the end of the universe. He's going to sleep at the end of his day.
Yeah.
So this is just the creation every day.
Yeah. Partial creation, partial annihilation, partial creation. The lower planets. So, we're told how Lord Brahma has got 4 heads. Right? Our universe is small. So our Brahma only has 4 heads. But if you have a bigger universe, then you have Brahmas with many heads. And it's described like that. That sometimes, well, at least one time, there is a pastime that Lord Brahma went to see Lord Krishna in Dwarka. And the secretary asked him, which Lord Brahma are you? And Brahma was surprised. He thought, which Brahma? I'm Brahma, I'm born from the lotus flower. I'm Swayambhu Brahma. And the secretary said, Lord Krishna wants to know which Brahma are you? And so Brahma was surprised. He didn't know there were other Brahmas. So then he said, well, I'm 4-headed Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma. And he went to Lord Krishna. And then they invited Lord Brahma in. And when he came in, Lord Brahma was surprised to see there were many other Brahmas. And there were Brahmas with 10s and 20s and 50s and hundreds of heads. He was amazed to see all these other Brahmas, and they all had many, many heads. And he was just a little Brahma with 4 heads. So that way Lord Brahma was educated that he's not the only Brahma in the creation. There's many Brahmas. Brahma is the position. Sometimes we hear that when we first fall from the spiritual world, we may take birth as Brahma. You may become Lord Brahma, your first birth in the material world. And just because you're Lord Brahma, it doesn't mean you're a pure devotee. You have to become the pure devotee. Not all Brahmas go back to Godhead. Some do. We are fortunate, we are told in our universe, Brahma is a pure devotee. Because the Lord shook hands with Lord Brahma and congratulated him on his tapasya. But not every universe has a pure devotee Brahma. So this is a small universe. Anyway, Lord Brahma was sitting on his lotus. He was looking for. Oh, let's read. Where is it? Anyway, it's mentioned in some other purport that Lord Brahma looked in the four directions, and when he looked in the four directions at that time he expanded, he grew 4 heads. Initially he didn't have 4 heads, but as he looked in the different directions he found that he had 4 heads. So he could see in the 4 directions. The followers of Madhvacharya, they, of course, Lord Brahma is the Adi Guru. He's the Guru. We're in the Brahma Madhva Sampradaya. So in the Madhva line, they don't like that section where Lord Brahma is stealing the cows away, and then he's been put into illusion by Lord Krishna. So they take that section out of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because they say, Lord Brahma, he's our Guru, he's the Adi Guru, how could he be in any illusion? So they say like that. They don't like to hear about the illusion of Lord Brahma. But we say this is a glorification of Brahma. It's showing his wonderful qualities as a devotee. Okay. So he had 4 heads in the 4 directions, and 17. He could not perfectly understand the creation. He could not understand the lotus, and he could not understand himself. Wow, he's got problems, right? He could not understand the creation, or the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. So this is within the universe. We're talking about the Garbhodak ocean. So the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus, and moving it in great circular motions, like whirlpools. So Lord Brahma is confused, he's bewildered, what to think. He's trying to understand. He's been trying to understand for a millennium. 1 millennium, how many years is it? 1 millennium?
1,000, well, depending on what, the cosmic millennium, 1,000 Divya Yugas, 1,000 Tatra Yugas.
How many years is a Divya Yuga?
432 million.
Huh?
Divya Yuga is 432 million, right?
432,000.
That's the Kali Yuga, but isn't it?
432,000. How did you get that? Well, that's Kali Yuga, right? And so then, the Dwapara Yuga is twice that. And Treta Yuga is 3 times that. And Satya Yuga, 4 times that. So 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, 10. So if you multiply the duration of Kali Yuga by 10, then you get 4,350,000. 20,000. So that's one Divya Yuga. And there are 1,000 Divya Yugas in the day of Brahma. So Lord Brahma is perplexed. He's trying to understand, but very difficult. Prabhupada said, no one therefore can know the mystery of the creation and cosmic manifestation simply by mental speculation. The human being is so limited in capacity that without the help of the Supreme, he can hardly understand the mystery of the will of the Lord in terms of creation, continuance and destruction. So, without the help of the Supreme, we cannot understand these things. This is the important point. Lord Brahma, he's very scholarly, very learned. He's trying to understand. He cannot understand, but he understands he needs the help of the Supreme Lord. And with the help of the Supreme Lord, then can be understood. It's very difficult to understand these things. We have to hear from Krishna himself. He can explain these things. But if we try to understand by our own efforts, we will never be successful. So Lord Brahma is thinking, it's being described for us, he's asking these kind of questions. Who am I situated on the top of this lotus? Where has it come from? There must be something downwards, and from that and from downwards this lotus has grown. That from which this lotus is grown must be within the water. So Brahma has got these kind of questions, and that's very good that he is inquiring, like he wants to understand. We encourage people like that to develop this inquiry, the nature of inquiry, to ask, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? This is intelligent person, atato brahma jignasa. Now you have the human life, you have to inquire. What is the difference between matter and spirit? If we don't understand these things, then we should inquire. And who does understand these things? Without hearing from the Supreme Lord, nobody really understands these things. It's beyond our imagination. Right? Ata Shri Krishna Navadi. We cannot understand with our limited senses, but he reveals himself when the Lord reveals himself when he sees sincere service. Alright, let's take a break. Chant Gayatri.
We had kirtan this morning.